channel ye Salam TV.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillahi sallallahu alaihi wa sallam. A dear viewer of Salam TV, we welcome you to today's episode of the Alhidaayah show, where we look at Islam and science. My name is Muhammad Sekalala, your host for the show. We want to apologize for the delay in start of the programming, but we hope we shall be with you till the end of the show. So in the last episode we looked at miracles of the human body, and we started on the brain. Today we want to I think now employ the technical bit of it, which is the mind. Our guest will try to give us the difference between the brain and the mind. I don't know which one is the noun and which one is the adjective, or it is the same thing, but all that we can appreciate as we go along. So our guest is the usual one that we always have, Mr. Hamza Sekalima, whom I'm going to request to say salam, and we see how to start, inshallah.
Now, my dear viewers, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us again another chance to sit here and interact and build our mind and understanding of Allah's miracles as a continuous journey towards boosting our iman and getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Thank you very much. So, Mr. Hamza, last week we looked at the brain. Yes. And I don't know whether the brain we can say is the organ, you know, in the scientific, in the biological definition. It is one of the organs you have in the human body. So the mind now is the function, or kindly start us off on that note.
Now you see these computers here.
Yes.
You see the computers are built nearly to imitate the way Allah created the human being.
Yes, please. So
this computer here is hardware.
Yes.
Essentially they are the hard parts that we can touch.
Okay.
So you have a screen here that shows you things. Inside there you have a processor. Those physical things, they are what we can compare with the brain.
The brain, yes.
So that is the brain. But once you switch on a computer, you are no longer interacting with these physical things.
Physical things, yes.
Within it, there is what we call software. So that software is what gives you a program for you to create pictures, a program for you to listen to whatever you want to listen to, a program for viewing movies. So that program cannot be seen just by looking at the screen. So that software, it is not necessarily tangible in the touch sense. It is tangible in the visual sense. We can see it, but you can't touch it. It's what now we can compare with the mind.
Okay.
Meaning, yes, we have our hardware, which is the brain. It does storage, it does processing, the way the computer is designed. But then, once it does those activities, the feeling, the emotions, the etc. that come out of all that activity, it is what we are referring to as
the mind.
The mind.
So to the viewer out there, the brain is the hardware, the mind is the software, but we are almost talking about the same thing here. Yes.
So today we are therefore looking at the miracle that we call the mind. Because like we all agree, the human being has been designed as a very weak creature in terms of all the other organs. We don't have a lot of strength. We don't have very good eyesight. Our eyesight is very limited. We don't hear extremely well. We have very limited hearing ability. Some animals even have electrical sensory systems. They don't even need to see something. They simply tap into the electrical signal that come out of the body, and you will find that all of these are not there on the human being. So you would imagine that the human being is indeed now an extremely weak creature, but the human being has, that brain and their mind. That's the only thing that is very different from the other creatures, and that alone has made the human being to be well above all the others. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even says, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا Bani Adam. So he shows that he has given us a level well above the others just by that single device that we call the brain, which is our main processing center, and the mind that drives this human being. Remember, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put us into this world as an examination. And that entire examination, if you look critically at it, the examination is all about activities of the mind.
Yes.
So the organs do things, but the organs are only doing things that are coming from the mind.
From the mind.
Before you steal someone's something, you begin by planning and doing some thinking. So it's not like your hands just go and take someone's property. So you'll realize that the entire evaluation that we are undergoing is all about our mind.
And I think it is the reason why the human being will be held accountable.
Exactly.
Because Allah gave us that ability to plan. To
plan and to think and to do things.
Execute things. Okay.
So we need to understand that the human mind is divided into mainly two types or two kinds.
Yes.
The very first one is what we call the conscious mind. Now the word conscious means you are essentially actively doing something. That's what we call consciousness, meaning you make a decision to do something and you do it. That's what we call consciously doing something. So the conscious mind is what we use for our activities that we carry out on a day-to-day basis. You want to eat food, you want to walk around. So these things that we do by thinking and implementing, they are what we fall under the conscious mind.
Yes.
But that conscious mind, remember we studied the other time about the brain and how it automates. That conscious mind, it takes a lot of resources in order for it to operate. So as an energy saving mechanism, I think Allah has designed it in such a way that the majority of our actions are driven by the second kind of mind, which we'll call the subconscious. Now the subconscious, for it is at the back, busy studying what you are seeing, what you are reading, what you are touching, and it keeps building like a knowledge base. You see these AI systems that people are wondering about. The human being also, intelligence is also built by experience. That's why when a child is born, the child is not aware of anything, but its brain is able to process nearly the same way as you, as an adult does. But the only difference is that for you, you've interacted with life and you've learned many things and they are stored in your subconscious mind. That's exactly what the body is all about, the mind is all about. Collect experiences, create patterns out of them, and store them. Then once you store those patterns, whenever this human being is going to take an action, first check if there is any reference within the patterns that you have stored. For example, when you touch a hot thing, very quickly move away of your hands. You don't have to think fast. So the automatic system has already stored that whenever you feel any heat, the response is move away, otherwise you are damaging.
So does that now explain why these children, usually 1 year to 5, before they experience something, you cannot convince them that it is dangerous?
Because they don't have it stored in their reference knowledge section. They just have it blank, and that's why within the Sharia of Islam, we say that each child is born pure. Each child is born ala fitra, meaning the knowledge base is totally clean. There is nothing there.
Nothing there.
Then the hadith goes ahead and says it is the parents, meaning you are the ones responsible for programming this human being into a sensible person and etc. Unfortunately, we keep subjecting our progeny, our children, to negative influences. Now, there is one thing that we human beings forget, and that is the way the subconscious mind works and how it builds its knowledge base.
Yes.
When you are looking at a picture like this, you are essentially using your conscious mind. You are making an intention, and you are looking at it. So in case you don't like it, for example, it is full of blood, it is, you will intentionally look away.
Look away, yes.
That's what you do. Because you have to keep thinking of each action. How much time you take looking at that picture to come up to the conclusion that this is not something good. All that is conscious.
It's
you are
conscious,
thinking.
You're thinking, yes.
But now what happens at the back, the subconscious mind is busy recording
whatever it is seeing, yes.
Now unfortunately, for it does not
save out.
It does not necessarily do a lot of sieving.
It's
when you watch a movie, you begin by, first of all, conditioning yourself and saying, I'm about to watch things that didn't happen. So meaning you insulate yourself against everything you will see by saying, this is an unreal.
It's just a movie, yes.
But unfortunately for the subconscious mind, for it does not do that.
For its work is to store whatever is.
So once you watch this very, very violent movie, for you are doing it for entertainment. And by entertainment, we mainly mean either adrenaline. You see the human body has some chemicals that it generates in order to make you feel that feeling that you get when you are happy. One of them is adrenaline, which is more of like a drug. Then the second one is dopamine. Dopamine is that happiness feeling. So meaning, for you, you are looking at all these people killing one another, kung fu, etc. Yes, the body is enjoying and there is adrenaline and dopamine moving around. But in actual sense, the subconscious is busy recording those things. For it does not actually consider them to be false and fiction.
So that it is busy, becomes part of you.
Exactly, it is busy recording and building patterns. So for you, you thought, but I was only watching a movie, entertainment. But in actual sense, you are programming yourself. So how do we know that you have finally programmed yourself into a very bad corner? You become desensitized regarding issues of, for example, death and violence. If you watch enough violent movies, you will stop feeling concerned about violence.
Violence, yes.
Yes, initially you may not practice what you are seeing.
Yes, yes.
Because usually the practice finally comes when you have to make a conscious decision to fight someone or to do injury to them. But the subconscious has slowly by slowly conditioned you that there is no harm in killing a person. And interestingly, that's what they do sometimes when they are training people that are professional killers. There are societies that have professional killers. I think here in Uganda we may not have.
Are they the snipers?
What are called the professional killers.
They are hired to kill.
So what they do, for example, they can give you a video game. Remember, just like the way we look at movies, when you are walking around on a video game, you have already convinced yourself that this is not a real scenario. So these people I'm killing, they are not real people.
They are not real people, yes.
But the subconscious, for it does not understand that. So each time you keep shooting people on that video game, for it records that there is no harm in killing a person. So a person that has exposed themselves long enough, they have exposed their mind long enough to violence, like for example killing others, if you give them a real gun, it will not be very difficult for them to kill a real person. The reason simply being that the other subconscious that does the final analysis and tells you go ahead and pull the trigger, it has been poisoned by this negative content that you have been seeing.
Okay.
And that is a major problem regarding our entertainment sector, because for now, even our children, if you look at the cartoons that we show them, the cartoons are largely in the violent section.
Yes.
So for us, we think that to excite children, it's not very easy. The truth is, children are not very easy to entertain, because for them, they are looking for something abnormal.
Abnormal, of course, yes.
So we end up showing them all these violent cartoon, whatever, Tom and Jerry. If you look at Tom and Jerry, very funny cartoon, but the level of violence in there, that Tom gets always beaten up and blown up and it is.
Yes.
So these ones are all things that slowly by slowly program this person. And as time goes by, the person begins to change their perception.
Wow.
And the time comes when they are totally desensitized, they no longer consider killing others as a problem, and it is a very big problem. The same thing applies to other moral sections like sexual health, etc.
Yes.
People that are watching pornography, and these ones are all things that a person begins slowly to watch, and aware that every small minute you are watching that content, the brain is busy recording, and the mind is building a certain picture that it is going to use for further guidance of of yourself. So we need therefore to worry a lot about our minds, and I think what is regarded as mental health on the part of the medics. Mental health means the mind is working properly. So for the mind to work properly, it should not be exposed to things that cause the subconscious to work in a way that is negative to the interests of the individual. That is exactly why within the Islamic Sharia, for example,
yes,
it is highly discouraged to put out information about the sins of people.
Yes.
So meaning, even when you see a scenario of sin, you don't do what people are used to do nowadays, putting out cameras and taking photos and distributing.
Yes.
The reason simply being that the society should generally have a positive mindset, and for you to have positive mindset, it means you are seeing people doing good things
only. Yes.
You are seeing people helping others. You are seeing people conducting actions of worship and etc. Whenever you acclimatize your mind to that, it begins to build a model towards what is good.
So that's why there's a very strict requirement for proof regarding fornication,
reporting of sins. For example, you imagine,
yes,
when within the definition of evidence requirement, in case you see people fornicating,
yes,
you can see that it is nearly impossible to achieve that level of evidence. One, you should see with your own eyes. There's nothing like I was told. You should be the one seeing this event. Then two, you should not mobilize others. So you don't say, these people are going to be on, let me go and call Sekarara so that we can see. No. You see and you walk away. Another person, a second person comes and sees and walks away. A third person comes and sees and walks away. And the fourth person comes and sees, and four people all seeing the same fornicating couple.
And what is interesting, you shouldn't be eavesdropping or spying on them.
So it should be a natural thing. You are just walking on the road and you are seeing these people.
Allah says do not spy on one another.
So you can see that the evidence requirement for you to report an act of fornication is very high. Now a person may say, no, the Sharia required all those things because in those days there were no cameras. But now I have my 200 MP camera. I simply pull out, take a photo. Who can argue against it? If you come with that photo and you are wrong, you are going to be subjected to the 80 whips rule. So the Sharia did not put those things in place just merely to ensure that evidence is correct. So the issue was to keep the partially it is to avoid exposing these sins to people, because whenever people see a sinful event, their subconscious begins to record it among things that can happen in life.
I see.
And that's exactly why people that occupy places, positions of responsibility, religious leaders, leaders in politics, they are not expected to commit publicly known actions of negativity, like for example embezzlement, stealing public funds, selling off of public property. These actions desensitize the society and make people more willing to commit negative actions. For example, if you have been a person that is trusted, you are a religious leader, and then one day you are found to have stolen someone's wife, or you have fornicated with another person's wife, all the people that had rocked their subconscious minds to believe that this is not something that is done by a sensible person, they will immediately begin to add that event as one of the possibilities. So a person that could have controlled himself and kept themselves under a self-regulated mechanism, they end up now releasing themselves and saying, but after all, if even that man could do it, it means it's not really very possible to avoid. And in the end, evil spreads in society. That's why for us within the Sharia, don't spread information about evil actions. Except under very extreme circumstances where the action is even very well known, you are not really spreading anything in you are simply trying to use the court of public opinion to effect correction. That's when we are permitted. So this issue therefore of the subconscious mind and how we program it is something very critical. Look at societies where we see a lot of disagreement between the parents and their children. If you look carefully, there has been major both television and movie programming where they show you that parents are being disrespected by their children. Children are answering back.
You find these soaps,
movies, so you wonder why are they maintaining these negative themes? They may be using them for entertainment, but the problem is once this child sees the other actor or actress busy barking at a parent, the subconscious mind does not record it as a fiction. For it records it among the possibilities. So tomorrow a parent comes and tries to say something to this child, the child just finds themselves barking at the parent and is no longer able to regard it as a negative action. So that is something very important. The other interesting thing from our cultural perspective, when you look at the Ganda culture in particular, they used to hide nearly every other thing that should be private. They would hide it in such a way that they don't want it to even be known. For example, in the normal Ganda language, when a person is going to the toilet, what word do they use? They say against the manju. Now manju does not mean toilet. Now manju means behind the house. But of course the toilets used to be behind the house. But because our forefathers had that element of trying to ensure that people are not necessarily exposed to negativity, they will just call it manju, so that even the children don't need to try and spy around and follow where this person is going. The person has just gone behind the house, and that is all. Dressing, the format of sitting, these were all means of preventing unnecessary immorality in society, and it was all about regulate how much negative content people
ladies
see.
Shouldn't climb trees, shouldn't ride bicycles.
So these ones are all controls that are meant to ensure that largely the society is being exposed to positive content. Otherwise, negative content programs us to begin to expect negativity, and so by slowly we begin to flow towards negativity.
Maybe before we go, I don't know whether you've there's this other interesting scenario of the Ganda thing. Ladies were not eating eggs and chicken. Does it also have some?
I think those ones had
those were
other reasons.
Yes.
One person was explaining and saying if they would permit women to eat chicken, then possibly if a visitor came, the wife would just slaughter the nearby chicken and end up disposing of the man's chicken. Something like that.
Okay, so maybe there's something I wanted you to clarify on.
Now,
you've told us society should be exposed to the positive aspects
ensure
of life.
As much as possible that the content that people are seeing is positive. It positively programs people until they largely think positively, because the human being has all these too.
All these too, yes. So the issue I wanted to point out is today you see that most of the televisions, I think even things that we know are not supposed to be harmful. They always say parental control is encouraged here. I mean parental guidance. Then they'll tell you that alcohol, don't drink and drive. Do you think is there a way they are trying to play on the subconscious, or it is just a question
these
of...
ones are all just pretended, and it's very bad really that our society is just built on a pretense, because you cannot tell me
don't drink and drive,
that
cigarette smoking is harmful to your health.
You cannot deceive me that a person that you've permitted to drink is going to control themselves after the drinking, because drinking essentially disorganizes the brain. Actually, that's what I was going to be talking about next. This mind works normally under normal circumstances.
Yes.
Now, within the Sharia of Islam, we are prohibited from taking alcohol.
Alcohol, yes.
Then we are also prohibited from taking drugs.
Drugs.
We are 100% prohibited from taking those things. The reason simply being that they distort the working of the brain, and through that they distort the working of the mind.
Of the mind, yes.
How does it work?
Yes.
The alcohol, for example, disorganizes the speed at which neural connections occur within the brain.
Within the brain, yes. So
when you take a little of it, it begins to slow down your reflexes. A person that was able to walk properly ends up staggering. The reason simply being that the rate at which you are supposed to transmit balancing information to keep the body upright has now been degraded, and the person now begins to move in such a way that an action that should have occurred 1 second earlier has been belated, and the person now starts to stagger. So you are already damaging your mind.
Your mind, yes.
Then as the time goes by, you continue taking, you now begin to suffer from impaired thinking. Your thinking rate drops. So the people that claim don't drink and drive, or they put an alcohol limit, they are thinking that this human being should just take a little alcohol, not enough to disorganize the brain fully. But whatever you take in and it has the potential to disorganize the brain, you don't really have a lot of very accurate measure. For example, there are limits on how much alcohol you can have in your body. They are regarded as a legal limit. But the problem is, the effect of this alcohol on people's brains is not the same.
It's not
the way alcohol affects the secondary is not the way it affects me. So you could generate some average limit, but you may be actually talking of something that has already affected the individual.
Because the rate at which they are affected is different.
As you take more alcohol, thinking now becomes a problem. The brain is not even able to do enough connections. Then you even begin to suffer memory loss. That's why you see the person that is drunk comes and abuses people, and it is by morning he's not even aware that he did any of those things. And it was simply being that the neural connections that are supposed to store what he has done are simply disengaged.
Disengaged, yes.
So in the morning you tell him, you see what you did. If you don't have a video, the person will swear by his God that he didn't do any of those things. The reason simply being that there is a zero.
Anyway, what is even interesting it is one line of defense in the legal system. So
then the next stage, which is very bad,
yes,
is a reward system. As you take more alcohol, the brain now switches to making it appear like you are being rewarded for taking that alcohol, which is the other dopamine that we are talking about. Now, once dopamine begins to flow within your blood, you begin to feel like you are doing a positive thing. And unfortunately, that's what these alcohol companies are advertising. For them, they show you a person has taken alcohol and they are working with a lot of confidence. It's not really correct.
It's not correct.
So, because you have the reward system, the dopamine effect, you now slowly drift towards addiction. And once you are addicted, it means your mind can now no longer operate well without having this alcohol going in. In fact, I have heard even stories of some surgeons that simply can't touch a patient unless they've taken some alcohol, meaning the person has now even switched their stability system because of addiction. He now quakes whenever he has not taken alcohol, so he only stabilizes and becomes focused. The dopamine switches on, and
so that means now the other aspect of the parental guidance, I think in effect was saying that please keep your children away from this.
as if for you are safe. You are also not safe. So negative content affects everyone, and it is not good.
Because you see a national broadcaster, and the first thing, the following program is rated, is it PG?
Yeah. They tell you those things of rating, but we are all affected, and the negativity will remain.
So in other words, the Sharia aspect should be do not...
Being 18 years does not protect you from negative influence coming out of seeing violence and seeing
sexual content
and etc. You are also being affected, and you may find actually the child may even have less resources to implement any negativity that has happened to them. Of course, it may occur in the future. The damage is more extensive since it affects the child's future behavior. But in general, no one is really supposed to be seeing negative content. That's why for us within the Sharia, we don't say that a person is 18 so they can view pornography. No. Everyone
reach the age
should not be seeing. None should be seeing pornography. No one has any immunity towards those very negative pictures. And unfortunately, because there is a commercial element attached, for example, to alcohol, there is a commercial element attached to drugs.
Yes.
There are now new synthetic drugs that cause a lot of, the drugs, the way they work, and usually they spread very fast among people that are not very well off.
Okay.
For example, you take cannabis or marijuana, and it takes you into, it creates an artificial world where you are a big man, you have money. You are the CEO of Microsoft, one of the big companies. Those are the pictures it brings you. And slowly, it begins to disorganize the brain's ability to work with the memory. Because remember, this picture that you are seeing, the rich person you are, that one is now being recorded partially as a memory. But in actual sense, you are some poor Ugandan, somewhere in a ghetto.
In a ghetto, yes.
So a time comes when the brain now has gotten mixed up as to whether what is the reality. Is this guy rich? Or is the poor ghetto person? So finally people go mad. And that's usually the end point for all of people that take drugs. Even the alcohol, once you overtake, it will begin to disorganize your brain, and a time comes when you have now permanent damage. And this should be the case. Telling people excessive alcohol, who can control themselves after they've taken the initial dose of alcohol?
No one.
The thing disorganizes the person's ability to think. So you can't say that you control yourself, don't take excessively, but the person is no longer thinking correctly.
They are just taking whatever comes.
But because of issues of revenue and etc., they put those things there to appear to have warned the person. But the one you are warning, you are already damaging his capacity to think. So there is no way he's going to be doing anything that that will be beneficial once they have taken.
Our time is fast spent. Can you give us a final lesson for the believers, especially out there, the Muslim out there?
So for us all, we should understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created a very complex thinking system and experience-driven system that we call the mind. It uses the brain for processing, it uses the brain for storage. And once it stores, it also attaches emotions, feelings to these memories. And this is one thing that the computer people are still struggling with, trying to add feelings to these AI robotics. Because for them, you can't really record a feeling. There's no medium that you can use. But the expectation is that as we go by, maybe they just build some logical models about feelings. So we have said Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you that mind, and He has given it to you in a blank state. Meaning when a child is born, that slate there is totally blank. Then the child now begins to build experiences based on what they are seeing. When they see good, they build experience towards good. That's why people that grow up in stable families where there's a lot of love and positive emotions, they grow up to be people that mind about others. They go out of the way to help others, because those are the feelings that have been constructed within their subconscious mind. The ones that grow up in a lot of violence, they also drift towards negativity. They don't even believe that it is good to help others. They think the life is all about fighting and taking others, what belongs to others, as long as you are more powerful. It is something that comes out of the programming of the subconscious mind. So in whatever environment we are, let's put in an effort to ensure that we are subjecting ourselves to positive content. You subject yourself to negativity, slowly by slowly you will become desensitized to the level that you no longer even feel that this negative action is actually negative. And that one is a very big problem. You can see fornication that is done here in Uganda. In here in broad daylight, the reason people are being that this is something that has been done over time, and yes, people are no longer even concerned about it. You see couples introducing themselves and they are even staying together, and the society is not even concerned that this is actually a negative action. People staying together without being married. But nonetheless, because everyone has done it to the level that our minds are desensitized, we think that it is a positive thing. And all these are negatives. Let's treat our minds to positivity, and the benefit that is expected to come out of it, we shall get it.
Thank you very much. So dear viewer, we were looking at one of the miracles of the human body. Today we looked at the software aspect of the brain, which is the mind. And main thing to take away is that the mind, whatever it's exposed to, is stored, and afterwards comes back as experiences, those things that you keep on doing. So two things to note here is, one, do not subject yourself to negative things or things that are evil, things that are prohibited in Islam. And secondly, if you are to disseminate, if you are to promote, then endeavor to promote only those that are good, those that are positive, because the more you promote, you're making that as a storage or a stored experience for him to bring back in life later. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among those that spread goodness, only listen to good content and also view good content. Remember, through these shows, we hope that you're getting the right content, and we would love that you promote the good content that we are sharing here, and do that by visiting the Salam TV YouTube page. Type Alhidaayah, then the topics can come, and then like, share and comment, and such that we all benefit from the goodness. Otherwise, till next time, I remain Muhammad Sekalala. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Eno